So if we're going to go and have a look at this, we're going to go and create a report, then what we're going to do here is navigate back to where we were, accounting, general ledger transactions, and we're going to double click on the object, which is general ledger transactions. If I click on that, I get a screen which will be very familiar to people in business world. Unit 4 ERP, sorry. This is the A, B or C status. So for general ledger transactions, you can view whether they're registered, posted or being put as assigned to historical tables. So generally for most day-to-day reporting, it's either registered, so it's a transaction that's been posted to the system but has not yet been approved, or it's an approved transaction has been posted to the general ledger. So that's the first sort of thing that we can work on and we can change. Most of the time we'll want to add a criteria. So very helpfully there is an add criteria button just here. And if I click on that, we get a little table like this. And this is the equivalent of the add field function in the browser templates. Here we have all of the fields that are listed and the ability to choose whether we want to just recall or reuse the code or the text, or indeed both of them. And it's just a case of going down through the list and identifying those that we want to use and then clicking OK at the bottom there. So here I've got account and period, okay? And I've got the usual operators. I've got like, between, greater than, less than. I've also got the in-list function and various other things that we are used to using, okay? Also on the right-hand side here, I've got a downward chevron, and what that enables us to do is to say things like, do we want to prompt for this? So when I run this browser, is it going to ask me for the period or not? So what period am I interested in? What account am I interested in? That kind of stuff. Is it mandatory? So I have to have a value in here to make it macro, to use it. And then of course I've got this macro, and the macro is things like the prompt. So $user, so only show projects for this user, only show GL transactions for the current period, and that kind of thing. So all of those sorts of things what you're used to seeing in the browser template, we can use here. Once we're happy with our selection, then we can view the result by clicking the View Results button at the bottom of the screen. And like the Results tab on the browser template, we get the results in a simple grid here. Okay, I can do things here. So I've got my columns of data here, and we can do things to rearrange columns and move things around a bit. So if I go and click on account here, so I've clicked on account, I could actually then use this to search for specific accounts within the data. I can also use this to set up conditional formatting. I could rename it, so if I didn't want it to be called account, if I wanted it to be called general ledger, then I can do that. Or I can remove the column completely. So there's a whole raft of options that I can do there. If I want to sort things, here I've got a sort and group option there. If I click on that, I get another table, and this says select a column that we want to do the grouping on. So if I click on that, I want to group on transaction type. I'm going to do sort in ascending order, and I'm going to group by the name, and I'm going to show this as collapsed. So when we run this, the result will be collapsed. If we then see what that looks like, this is what collapsed means. So it's at the subtotal level, and that's what we see. So we see a result for each of the transaction types that have hit the general ledger. I can add in more sort and group here. I can then do period and account, really go to town on this, and I have them, some of them collapsed and some of them expanded. What I like to do is have the higher level ones on my first searches collapsed and my lower ones expanded. It just seems to make more sense that way. And then when we click through the report, you can see that we've got the first line of subtotals, then we've got the subtotal by period, and then when I bring that out here, I've got the detail. Okay, so if if we then want to drill down to the detail, I've got the transaction number there. If I click on that transaction number, I can then drill down into the individual detail behind the transaction. And if there were an image, that image would be displayed here. So I could see all the way down from the, if you think about this, from the transaction type through to the period, through to the individual transactions, and then into the actual details of that transaction. If we want to customize the results so that cost centers are shown, so in here at the moment, the cost center isn't shown in here, and we want to add the cost center to the report, then this icon here is where we gain access to all of the rest of the fields, similar to the search bar where we looked at that in the search option. So here, if I click on that, I get again a list of all of the tables that are, all of the fields that are available here, and I can select here that I want to show the code and the text. Okay, there is an arrow here, the eagle-eyed amongst you, and that allows us to look at subtables for cost center, so other data. And if we get time later on when we actually look at this for real, if I remember, I'll show you how that works. At the moment, I'm just trying to give you a really good overview within the time that we have available. So we've selected those two options, and we're going to click OK, and that then brings the cost center back into the report. Okay, if I didn't want to have those there, I could drag those. So if I wanted to have the cost center on the left-hand side, I could just drag those columns over there and drop them wherever I wanted them to be. For the moment, we're going to leave those there, because actually what we want to do is we've created this lovely report now, and we want to save it. So if I click on here, there is a save button there, and by clicking on save, it opens this window here, which says, okay, what do we want to call this? So we give it a name. We can have the sort of buttons that we're used to in the browser template. So run automatically when opened. So when somebody runs this report, it will automatically pull the result rather than open the report and then you click search and then it goes and finds the result. So I like to have run automatically when opened already set. In all of these here, we go through the menu structure, and we're going to place this report in the shared file within accounting, and that's what we need to do there. That's telling it that's where we need to save the report. If I click that there, then once we refresh the menu, our new report will be presented. Unfortunately, down the left-hand side, we didn't show the accounting option because accounting is down here somewhere. But we are in the accounting area. Within the reports, within the shared area, there is our report that we've saved. And if we run that report now, it opens it, runs the report, and produces the detail. So that's the information browser in summary. That's sort of how to find it, roughly how to use it, and what some of the things you can do with it, and then how to save a report. It's one of those things you need to play with, but it is really powerful. And if we look here, the main benefit is actually you can create really powerful browsers without really being too techy. And you can then share those with your colleagues, and you can save them where you want them to be.